The following is a Network Newswire audio production. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, Network Newswire uses its network of more than 5,000 key distribution outlets, as well as other corporate communication tools, to introduce private and public companies to a wide audience of investors, consumers, journalists, and the general public. Our reputation for highly efficient communication strategies is based on the experience and relationships our team has in the space. It is Network Newswire's unwavering commitment to connect the investment community with companies that have great potential and a strong dedication to building shareholder value. The following interview features a client of Network Newswire. Network Newswire may have been compensated for the production of this interview. Please be sure to read our entire disclaimer for full disclosure. Thank you, and here today as your host is Stuart Smith.
Welcome one, welcome all to another online business briefing brought to you by the Investor Brand Network. And today we're shining the spotlight on another smart and fresh play. It's Cybin. I want you to follow along at the company's website, www.cybin.com. Cybin spelled C-Y-B-I-N. We're lucky enough to be joined by the Chief Executive Officer for the company, Doug Drysdale. Doug, how are you today?
I'm very well, Stuart. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to call in and talk to our listeners. You've got a fascinating company in a real growing space. It's a space that maybe a year, 2 years ago, not a whole lot of people were talking about, and that's using psilocybin as a nutraceutical. But instead of me telling everybody, let's have you as the CEO tell us a little bit more about Cybin.
Absolutely, Stuart. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to be joining the Cybin team and to be in a position to help people suffering from mental illness, which has been highlighted a lot recently in this pandemic. Cybin is a biopharma company. We're developing mushroom-derived pharmaceuticals for mental illness and also health products from mushrooms that support areas like cognition and immune response. So we are, through our sublingual psilocybin development program, we are positioned to hopefully be among the first commercially approved psychedelic medications for mental health. So we are starting our clinical study around the end of this year for patients with major depressive disorder, and we're starting that study in Jamaica, and that should run for about a year, after which we're looking for an approval of that product.
Well, very good. Let's talk a little bit about the team. You just mentioned that you've come on as CEO. Let's talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump back into the company.
Absolutely. So our founders are a team of serial entrepreneurs. They've successfully grown businesses in medical devices, in the cannabis space, and in merchant banking. Our head of marketing comes from UFC and Canada Goose. It's a really strong background. Our chief medical officer has 25 years of experience in companies like BioVale and Eli Lilly. In terms of my background, I've been in healthcare about 30 years. The first decade in Europe, I grew up in the UK, and the last 2 decades in the US. For the past dozen years or so, I've been the CEO of 3 different companies. The first, I started in 2008 with a group of investors that we grew from inception to about $450 million in revenues in a little over 5 years. The second company was NASDAQ listed. I was the chairman and CEO, and we transformed that company from a small regional cough and cold business into a national specialty pharma company with 220 salespeople selling medications for migraine and insomnia and for chronic pain. And my most recent company, where I was CEO, was a turnaround situation where we grew revenue about 60% last year and made it onto the 2020 Inc. 5000 list. And then before all of that, over a dozen years ago, I was head of M&A at Activist Group, which is a large multinational generic company, where we acquired 15 companies over a 4-year period, expanding into 70 countries.
Well, very good. Let's look back on the year 2020. Obviously, the elephant in the room being the global pandemic. What impact did that have on your company, and what were some of the major milestones achieved by Cybin so far here in 2020?
Yes, we're very fortunate, actually, given that we're largely virtual. We have a team in Toronto, I'm in the Boston area, and we have our clinical team in Jamaica. Given that sort of virtual setup, we've been barely impacted by the pandemic. We're very fortunate there. So far, the company's raised $10 million, and we're in the process of a further financing round that we hope to close in the next several weeks, where we're hoping to raise another $10 to $15 million. As part of our clinical program this year, we have secured a source of GMP psilocybin API to support our initial clinical program. And we've initiated a program to synthesize our own proprietary API to support future programs. We've signed a development partnership this year with Intelligenics to develop a sublingual film of psilocybin that we believe will not only work faster than an oral capsule, but will also enable us to give less drug to patients, which is always a good thing from a side effect point of view.
Well, as we look towards the end of 2020, as we now enter September, what are some of your operational goals moving forward?
Yeah, the primary value drivers for the remainder of this year include the completion of this financing round, followed by going public through an RTO within the next month or so. We're looking to complete our sublingual psilocybin formulation program, and then start dosing in our phase 2 study for major depressive disorder around the end of this year. We're also very excited to be launching our wellness brand of nutraceuticals and supplements to the public around the same time frame. Also, we're very busy on the business development front, and I fully anticipate that we'll be announcing a number of transactions that potentially expand our development capabilities and add to our IP portfolio.
Well, Doug, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. If you would, any closing thoughts or comments for the listeners today?
Well, I think an exciting development for us in the coming months is our plans to go public. This space is really developing. You may have heard that one of our competitors, Compass Pathways, announced last week that it's intending to go public through a NASDAQ IPO this fall. The reporting is that their valuation will be around $500 million or so, and I think that's really good news for Cybin and for its investors. So I will be watching their IPO with great interest, as you can imagine, and look forward to sharing more with you once we get through that process.
Absolutely. We look forward to speaking with you once again once your company is public. Listeners, I want you to follow along. Again, as I mentioned, go to the company's website, Cybin.com. Lots of changes happening, but what a great time to get to know this company, Cybin Corp. And again, that website, Cybin. Doug, thanks so much once again for your time, your insight, and your candor into your company. We look forward to great things from you and Cybin here in 2020 and well beyond. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks for having me, Stuart.
All right, for Doug Drysdale, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for listening.
This audio interview is an original broadcast provided by Network Newswire, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company delivering a new generation of corporate communication solutions, including news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and enhanced news release services. Network Newswire may receive payments for corporate communications relations, as well as various press releases and social media solutions provided to its clients. You should assume that officers and directors of Network Newswire or financial analysts mentioned hold a position in and may intend to trade these securities for their own accounts. This interview is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell securities. Information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as, investment advice. As in all investments, an investment in the featured company carries an investment risk. Listeners should review the company thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This audio interview by Network Newswire does not purport to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used in statements of fact have been obtained from the featured company and other sources, but not verified nor guaranteed by Network Newswire as to completeness or accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see our full disclaimers and disclosures at networknewswire.com.